Hi, everyone. Welcome to All the Forbidden Things. This is the podcast where we talk about what we're not talking about or ways that we're not talking about common subjects. So today we're going to talk about an overly talked about subject, which is acting and being an artist and being an actor and how you pursue your career and how you feel about yourself. But we're going to do it in a slightly different way where we talk about kind of our perceptions of ourselves as actors, our path, and things that, might have held us back. So Anthony, Ant, is a friend of mine from Savannah. And we've known each other for like 4 years now or something.
Yeah.
I think so. And when we met, like you had a Greatest Showman poster and like really enjoyed Dear Evan Hansen and like loved theater stuff. But and I knew that you were an actor and you did some improv stuff, but you were always very like, oh no, it's too late for me. I don't think I'm gonna do it or whatever. And then I saw some things that you had done, and I was very eager for you to change your attitude. So I'm glad that now you have, and you're in a production you have a rehearsal for tonight.
Yeah.
Just had a commercial. So things are going well for you. And yeah.
Yeah, not too bad. I still have the same attitude. I just keep it internal.
He's not
I just
telling
don't I
me.
just don't express it outward.
You know what? As long as you're doing the thing, it's okay that you have the
Yeah.
attitude. Yeah.
So I am an actor, but I don't feel like an actor, but I have a
Yes.
lot of acting opportunities.
Yes.
So it is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into that. So we always start out with a benign question. What do you think my favorite breakfast food is, or what I normally eat for breakfast?
I see you as like an avocado toast person. Maybe not toast, maybe like some special type of bread or like a but yeah, that's maybe some like those everything seeds on it
Uh-huh.
or yeah, you're an avocado toast person for sure.
Okay, so I went through an avocado toast phase
Okay.
when I was in California, as one does. But lately I eat scrambled eggs with like fancy weird crackers.
Okay.
So like Mary's Gone crackers, which I know is really weird to think about, or like just any kind of gluten-free kind of fancy cracker.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Do I have the same? Do I ask this?
Yeah. So,
So you guess what?
uh-huh.
Okay.
So I think that if you could have your way, you would eat like a McDonald's biscuit with like cheese and bacon and egg. Um, and but then on a regular basis, you probably eat, we might get a visitation from my dog Sophie, so just forgive her. On like a regular day, you probably don't eat breakfast. Or maybe you have like a little bit of like Wheaties or something.
Okay. Regular day is I'm not a breakfast person.
Uh-huh.
So I actually try and just hold out till like that 11 o'clock, 11:30 lunchtime. If anything, I mean, I love like a good McDonald's burrito, like the sausage burrito on the fly. But if I have to have breakfast, it's more of a like bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel type, like New York bagel. Yeah.
Awesome.
But good guess on the no breakfast at all, because that is
Yeah,
usually.
yeah. All right, I think my dog is
We found the
pulling me.
squeaker.
Like we found the squeaker after like many months of not. So let's do a little pause. I'm gonna switch it out with a tennis ball. I'm gonna be right back. Okay.
Oh, it wasn't paused?
No, it wasn't
Oh,
paused.
damn.
I'll just cut
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I
And we're
swear to
back.
God. We're back. Okay, so let's get started with your first question to me about you.
Okay. So, start with an easy one. Do you think I tell people I'm an actor? Why or why not?
Okay, so we already have a little bit of a hint on this one. I think that when you say it, it's only ever if you're like somebody might be like best friends with you, and then they're like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And you're like, I'm in this production thing, like, but like, don't worry about it." Or if you feel like there's somebody who is like creative or is also an actor or is into improv, then I think you would share that you
Get a
do
little more
stuff.
excited.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Or if people like asked you what your hobby was, or like you had an icebreaker, that might be your little thing.
Okay. I don't know if I'd ever say it in an icebreaker of like,
Okay.
I think I'd go to something else. But my like go-to word is like, I dabble. Like, doesn't matter. Like, I dabble. So a lot of times, because on the side, oh, I'm saying on the side when really my real job is a flight
I
attendant.
like this change.
But do you like that? I just said
Yeah, I
on the
do.
side, I'm a flight attendant. So my real job is a flight attendant. So I'm always just kind of like traveling around. So I'm always carrying like the script. So now I do a lot of my studying and stuff on the planes. And so a lot of people do ask actually.
Mhm.
And I'm always just like, I dabble.
He's gonna be like dabbling to the Academy Awards.
Yeah, I dabble. So I would say I don't come out and tell people that like I am. Like if I have a show, I actually am more comfortable now. I'm like, oh, I have a show this weekend. I won't be like, you should come. I'm not like,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you should come. But I will tell them like I have a show. I'll tell them what it's about. So I show way more, I'd say, interest and confidence than I used to. But I still, it's not that I don't think I'm an actor because someone told me that if you get paid, you're an actor. And I've gotten paid now a decent amount for things. So I am, but I don't know if it's just because I don't spend every Monday through Sunday
Yeah.
doing it. That's why I don't consider myself one. But I have come around to the term of more comfortable expressing that it's something I enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's something that I do.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna jump on that with for me, do you think I consider myself to be an actor or a legitimate actor?
So for you, I would say no. But it's just because I feel like your actual strong suits career, what you started as, was not acting, writing, and I'd say like on the cusp of it all. So not specifically like acting in a show. But I think now, I think you probably do say you are.
So this is such
Or
a
you dabble.
complicated.
Or you
No,
dabble.
no. So I have my own version of dabbling, which is I do performances.
hmm
So when I was in high school, all through a child, I wanted to be an actor. And when I was in high school, people would be like, "You're good at this. You should do theater." And then, as they do to all of us. But I really wanted to. And so I applied to NYU to do communications. And then I was going to swap it out with a little audition for their drama school. But I got lame and I ended up just going for a regular education. Well, actually, it wasn't that regular. I did like business of entertainment and media. I kind of studied to be an agent, sort of this
Everything
as
right on the outskirts.
that. And I did a little bit of acting in some student films and stuff like that, and I was secretly thrilled by that. But it was drilled into me that this was not a path that I could take to make any money at, which now I'm a writer. No, but I have found a way to make money at that. But then like a therapist got on me about it and was like, just take some classes. And I'm like, no, if I take some classes, it's going to like awaken the beast. But then I did, and it awoke the beast. And I pursued it a little bit, like in a way that I would call myself an actor when I was in LA. And then when I left for the pandemic, I just like went full writer mode and like have been working on a book that's turned into a few different things. But then I've started to pick up, like I started singing just for fun in the Philharmonic chorus. And I've started to pick up like roles here and there through people I've met. I just did like a little musical thing. It was the first time I was singing by myself. And I absolutely love it. And I feel like I do deep down identify as a performer. I do deep down identify as someone who's an actor, but I don't get paid for it. I don't know that I've ever gotten paid for it. Maybe a little thing here or there. but yeah, I think this is an interesting thing to talk about. So somebody told you that, you're an actor once you're getting paid for it. That feels very like industry talk.
Yeah.
Feels like a very like LA type of way of thinking
It
about
was a
it.
teacher who
Yeah.
was in the industry.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And it's interesting because ever since the election and the way the world's been going, I suddenly realized why people do art. Like I was in this Beethoven's fifth or ninth. Oh my God, I can't remember.
so much Beethoven.
There's so much Beethoven. It could be anything. But and that was in the fall, like right after the election, I think. And it was so moving because the composer kind of made it a thing, and it was so like, oh my God, we're all here. Everything's gone for a moment. It's just this performance. It's just this offering. It's just this magical music, the orchestra, everything. Like, and being on a stage is such an incredible experience. And I don't say that like narcissistically. It's just because you're connected to the audience in this really meaningful way. And it's magnificent looking. And so I just realized like, oh, this is why people have done music and art through hard times. And the combination of that and just in general, like knowing myself more, I'm like, I can't afford not to perform. Like it's like a survival mechanism now.
That's fair.
So,
But
yeah.
then is there a point where you can't afford to perform?
Not in my current situation. So I have a couple clients. The one that is my bread and butter, it's remote. So there's like flexibility to do stuff. I think there would be a turn, and I've also started to pick up some voiceover work.
That's cool. I've
So
always
I
wanted to
did,
get into
yeah,
that.
you should. I did some like dubbing. I got paid nothing. Oh, I guess I am a paid actor. I did some dubbing. I've been all sorts of random roles. They often have me be like the adulterer or some other non-flattering role. But anyway, so I've done a lot of those, but with those, they take up so much time. I don't have the complete dubbing setup. So I'm like constantly going back trying to find the line, and you have to do it a million times when you're not extremely experienced. But if it's a new language like Finnish, so that has been a great like learning opportunity. But I turned down the last one because they were like, "Can you watch the movie all the way through?" And I was like, "No, I don't have time for that."
Yeah.
So I guess it depends. Like if it's a local performance, that kind of keeps me going. It gives me something to focus on and like be excited about. But yeah, there's certain jobs where it's like that's just not gonna be worth it.
I agree. And we can cut this because we could talk about this for literally an hour, just this one part. But I mean, the last year I've done 3 community theater. I did Into the Woods, which was my first dabble into. I've never done musical theater, and now all of a sudden that's all I do.
Yeah.
So I did musical theater, and I was Cinderella's prince. I did Rent, and I was Roger. And now I'm in the middle of a Ride the Cyclone, which is like a new kids younger age thing. But I mean, every time I go to 3 days of rehearsal, I'm probably giving up $1,100 to $1,200 for acting.
Yeah.
So it is just like this fine line of what is the threshold. And at times I'm like, I could be making money or I could be, and I'm frustrated. But when it's the performance the day of and you actually do it, like that whole you were
So
talking
worth
about, you're
it.
like, this is worth it.
So
But
worth
then
it.
it's what's the threshold of what makes it worth it. And yeah, it's just a weird topic that you could talk about.
It's interesting because no, it's so true. It's interesting because I feel like I have come to the point where I don't think I can live without it. And so it's almost like uh I don't even think of it like I almost think of it like if I have like a social life, like well of course they would take up time I could be billing. So, but being in but the productions that I've been in are not like quite so time intensive all the time. So, so yeah, that it's like once it starts cutting into your income becomes a thing. Well, okay, so jumping off of this, one of the other reasons that people don't do small projects a lot of the time is because of the mental hurdle of like, well, it's not really like a real project. So do you think that I've had that in like, if so, what contexts? Or like, do you think I've never really thought of myself as above anything?
No, I definitely think that you have thought of yourself as above stuff. I mean, you're very talented and um I mean, I feel like everyone at one point or another thinks they're
Yes.
above something. So, I think you always probably take it with grace and a better attitude than most. I don't think you would ever look down on something because I think you're supportive of just people doing what they want to do and being passionate. I think you have like good qualities of that, but I definitely probably think you're like, this is not worth my time, or this is just like not not like filling my cup internally. So I don't think you like put a negative spin on it, but I definitely think you're just like, no.
Okay, that's really got me thinking because I was thinking about this idea of like the money thing and why I don't always pick up these VO jobs. And I think when there is something transactional about it, I start thinking about it transactionally. Like, I'm like, it's like, I could think about that if they didn't pay me. I might be like, "Oh, another opportunity to like train and get better
Yeah.
at this." But the fact that they're paying me like fucking pennies is like, I mean, per word, but still, um, is like, it starts to be like, well, that's not something I can afford to do. Um, but then, and I'm thinking other projects that I have, I guess I have thought of myself as above things. Other ones would be like projects posted on like Actors Access or something where they really hype up like, oh, this is going to be in your reel, or like, and they're also trying to make a thing out of it.
Yeah.
And it's not like for the love of the art. Somehow it just feels like everybody's doing a stepping stone. And I'm like, that's not. But lately, since I have not been in a big city, and I might be heading back to one at some point, so I'd be stuck in this crisis all over again. But I've been in Savannah, and I started doing the Philharmonic because, like, I didn't even think I could sing. And I was just like going through a breakup, and my dad was like, "You should join a choir." And I was like, "Why?"
That heals everything.
It did
There you
though.
go.
Which also, sidebar, your vagus nerve or something that is responsible for a lot of like calming your body and all of that is activated when you sing. So even if you're singing in the shower or the car, it's really good for you. But it did help give me something really challenging that was like above my level to work into, that required hours of time and focus, that was not me feeling sad about myself. But that was so completely not ever about getting ahead in anything or getting paid for anything. And it gave me just this love of performance. Like, I feel, or felt for a long time, and now I feel like I do belong there, but like so lucky to be there. Like, oh my God, I snuck in, like, and I'm getting this amazing thing out of it. But a lot of people in it will be like, well, they don't pay us. And like, we put a lot of time into this, and they might be advancing to a point where maybe it's not as challenging for them. But in general, in Savannah, like any of the productions that I've done, I will pick up any production because the things that people do are usually out of the love of it. And like anything I've been approached to do, and I just feel not lucky as in like way out of my range, but so excited to be able to do anything that I almost feel like I forget that I'm not getting paid.
Yeah. But then there's also like the point of like you've been in this harmonic now where it's like you were so appreciative to be in it, but now it's like now you're in it and you've done well, and so isn't there shouldn't be that there shouldn't there be a part where they're almost appreciative of you now, of what you've given and your talents, and so it's just always this fine line
Yeah.
of like at what point is it. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's an internal thing and everyone's measure is different, but I've done these plays now, and a lot of them are a couple of the same people in every one. And I just did Rent, and then so they asked me, people that were doing on the side, would I be in theirs? And it's just like, at what point is it like they're appreciative of you, but you're doing it for free? How easily replaced can you be? Like, how easily
Right.
replaced can you be in that Philharmonic?
Well, the thing is, very easily, there's like 90 of us. Anyway, but like the thing I just recently did, that was like it's this Performers for Social Justice, amazing, little production company. And it's always volunteer stuff, and it usually has like, well, it always has like some kind of meaning behind it or whatever. But anyway, the one we just did, I think that people would have missed that it was someone else. They would have done a great job too, but like I brought a life to it that was my own. But it is interesting. I keep going back to like, I think you brought to my attention that this appreciative thing, like I was like, oh, I've reached this point where like I'll just give anything to any production. Like I'll give my all to any production I'm in. There's no audience that's too small. There's no thing that's too small. And I think that part is still true if I love the project.
Okay.
Because I do think that the art feeds me, that the art, when you think of it as art, is so much more than, I don't know, a production. It is truly you're communing with the audience, you're communing with other people. So the more that we think of it in like a very capitalist way, where you have to like industrialize it, everything kind of like gets very like, well, I don't know if it's worth it. But the caveat is I would not do a production that I didn't think was art.
That's fair. See, for me, I'm getting a little more. I don't really care about like the money thing. Like, I do love passion projects, and if it's something I'm into, I will do it. Doesn't the money doesn't matter. For me, it's technical stuff. Like, I don't like singing over tracks. I'd rather a live band.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it's like those little things that I don't know why, but really get to me. Like in one production, we didn't have mics. And I'm like, we need like, so it's those little things that, and I don't know if I should kind of be, I don't know the word for it, but like I'm kind of like a diva. Like I did a thing and it was handheld mics, and I'm like, we were like, these need to not be handheld, and we need to be mic'd and have freedom of our hands. And like a part of me didn't want to push back, and I didn't, but like now I get very, that's some of the stuff I choose projects on is uh
Will it be well equipped?
yeah, to like handle it. And I'm all about like small theater and stuff, but you can still do it in ways where it doesn't feel cheap, I guess. So now I'm at where I just don't want stuff to feel cheap.
Okay, so I have been spoiled. No, this is really helpful because I have been spoiled by everything I've done in Savannah is either like the Philharmonic course is not cheap.
No, yeah.
That's like right. And then the other production company, Performers for Social Justice, she does very minimalist, like a lot of times it's just readings or whatever. And she doesn't do like way too many rehearsals. She somehow just knows exactly how to cast it. Like she's just a master at that. And everything's just right there. You have your little lights on the thing. The space is well chosen for the sound. And so it's classy, it's well done, and you're never missing anything. And so you have a real point though that like when something is under resourced, it's very difficult. But okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think that I'm a diva in productions?
I would go with no. I feel like maybe internally, but I feel like you're not one to like make a problem of it. So like, yeah, I would go with no, you're not. But in your mind, I know it's gonna bother you.
Yeah, I think what I try to do, and I don't know if I'm like fully successful, is if there is something that's related to like me or like, well, when are we going on stage? And we haven't gotten a cue from the director yet, or I know something's not working. Like the sort of producer director in me, maybe too, like wants to jump in and be like, but what if we did this? And thankfully, Bonnie, a Performers for Social Justice, is very gracious if that accidentally happens from time to time, or like she'll be like, that's a good point. I try not to step on toes, and I'm paranoid about being seen as a diva, but here's the thing. Performing well actually does require quite a bit of production help,
Yeah.
certainly in certain circumstances. You can't just go on there and deliver the same quality performance every time if you have to be
Yeah.
like, wandering around, or if it's constantly changing up on you and now your blocking's totally different because they did this wrong thing here or whatever. There's just not enough resources, or you have a bad director. It's very difficult if like they are letting you run off on your own with the idea of what the role is based on these like poorly written lines, and then that's like not at all cohesive with what everyone else is bringing to the table. All of that stuff.
I would say acting is probably 70%. That's a stretch. I'd say 50 to 60% external factors.
Yeah. That is really interesting. And I will say the percentage is higher the less experienced you are. So for me, like with the voiceover stuff, the dubbing, maybe other people would be able to plow through that and they'd be making good money. But for me, it requires like I don't have all the perfect equipment for it. I'm not set up entirely for it. I've got like a blanket over my head, like because I have to be involved with the computer and the sound and everything. So it's time consuming and like tiring for me. And yeah, but if I was better at everything, like if I was faster at being able to deliver a performance, including like a musical performance without the level of practice, then I think I would be a little bit less dependent on external factors. But you still are. Like you see movies that like award-winning actors are in and they totally bomb or their acting feels flat. And you're like, that was not them.
I've also seen movies where the acting didn't really matter because of everything else going on around it, where you could just kind of place any Jane, Dick, Sally in there, and they would have been just as good because of the external factors.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
So, okay, so when it comes to external factors, and knowing that acting is, we'll say, 55% other things, is acting now more of networking or classes and really perfecting the craft for you in the moment? I guess I'm asking.
Wait, kid, as long as we get.
I'm asking you what you think. For me, what is acting for me now?
So for you, I think I don't know of you doing like a bunch of classes and stuff. I think that you've like probably put in the investment on that you think you needed. And now it's about networking or giving your all to something, or like, maybe just auditioning for stuff when you can find it. But I also think you were probably trained in whatever acting classes you took to need to keep going to the gym, if you will. So, like, if you don't have something going on, maybe you would fill that in with like a class, or if you wanted to pick up some other skill that you wanted to fill in. But yeah, probably more networking now.
So I think I treat, obviously, like networking now a little bit, but I just treat what I'm doing as the class.
Yeah, me too.
So, especially because I'm not getting paid for, let's say, 50% of them. So, those ones I treat more as doing different stuff, branching out, teaching it as a class, treating it as a class instead of going to an actual outside class to learn and stuff. And now I will start using the plays as my practice.
Yeah, I think I do that too with okay, well you can take a guess on why don't you guess, do I enjoy taking classes? And if I had all the money in the world, would I be taking them?
I think you would. I think you're one of those who 100% would. Like the joy of the class itself.
Damn it. Well, okay, so here's my trouble with classes. So I have a tendency to second guess myself in general.
Okay.
And when I'm acting, I think I do best if I just spend a ton of time. Like if I read the lines 1,000 times, I have the role. Like I figured, like I really start getting into it and like it becomes alive in me. I do some analysis of things. It depends on like the scene. Like I'll use some of the tactics that I learned in classes, but a lot of times they would get me further in my head when I needed to be more in my body.
Mhm.
So that is the only reason that even if I currently could throw a bunch of money at it, I wouldn't do a ton of classes. But there was one teacher, Sandy, I can't remember her last name, in LA. She's an amazing coach. And she did that method where you just mirror back to people. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry, Sandy. You probably have enough students anyway. But like we would do exercises at the beginning where we would just like, you would say what you saw in me or what you were feeling. We would say the word back.
Oh, it was like, I don't know if did you ever say emotion, or was it like,
yeah, it was like an emotion. It
like,
could be an
your shirt is
observation.
purple.
Yes.
But then you like
But then it
saw
would
it
be
the way
like
I said it, so
purple, mysterious,
yeah,
mysterious.
okay.
Yeah. So, and then like just getting in the connection with the other actors. And then I would prepare before that. Like I spend a lot of time with the material, but it's just like me and the material that does the best. And then in an actual class or in direction, like I do well just being able to get in it with the other people. So, but, yeah, so I struggle with that just from the perspective of overthinking. But if I didn't have that problem, yeah, I probably would do it all the time.
Yeah. For me, it's just like, it's also the balance of, am I taking too many classes to like pursue acting?
Right.
That's a whole nother wormhole there, because then I find myself in all these things that I'm trying to do what I want to do to get paid for, but now I have no time because I have that. It's just, you can make an argument either way.
Do you, okay, here's a forbidden saying. What do you think my real opinion is about other actors who are not like well-known paid actors? Like, what do you think my secret thoughts are about a certain like contexts, other actors who are trying to make it or something?
It's just like a personality. I think you're always supportive. I mean, isn't this like an everyone thing? Like I'm always like, I could do that.
Okay, so that's the
I feel
angle
like
that you're
I
thinking.
feel like you're like an I could do that person. I don't feel like you're like, I'm better than them, or I just feel like, yeah, I don't think you're one of those like, I'm better than them, but I feel like you're an I could do that.
Okay, so
That's just like trying to be
that's
nice.
an angle. No. I appreciate the
You're a nice person, is
diplomacy
what I'm
of your
getting at.
answer. Okay. So I was thinking the question was aimed more, well, it could have been anything, but like I was having in my mind how I judge other people in acting classes or in circles of people who are like really like like truly trying to make it versus
So
just
not the
good at what they're
specific role,
doing.
not like I'm going for that.
Yeah,
Just
like
them in general.
just them in general, like being around, like when you're in kind of like lower level productions in a big city, especially rather than like, I think when you're in a smaller city, everyone can kind of just, they all rise to the occasion, do their best, and everything is the best. But in a big city where there's tiers, the people who are like, it's the crabs in the bucket thing.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there's all this like kind of victim-y, like, oh, like they kind of want you to be suffering along with them. Like, and one of the reasons that I don't always enjoy acting classes is because of that attitude among other actors. And then they'll laugh so hard at what the coach says.
Yeah.
And there's this like fawning that goes on and all this like overly thinking about it. And I think I probably secretly on the sidelines, I'm like, I am better than this. Like, I'm good at this. I don't need to fawn, and these people are disgusting. That's probably
It's just,
my
but it's also
secret.
time and place, like LA, Savannah, like gonna be totally. So I think it's just a matter of where you are.
Yeah, that's true. Because in Savannah, never once judged anyone else. I think of us all like the same. I think of like everybody just doing their best work and we're having an amazing time and it's communal. I don't think of skill levels.
Yeah.
I don't think of like, I just don't portion people off like that. But in a highly tiered society, I think I'm more just annoyed by like this victim-y, like pick me.
Yeah, but that's just like LA.
Yeah, I think it's an LA thing. I wonder if it's like that as much in New York. I never really pursued. much acting in New York.
I've never done. That's another thing too. I mean, there's just levels of this, and done. I've never auditioned in New York or LA. I've done some like Atlanta stuff, but it just seems like a whole different like tier level and
Yeah.
like world where maybe once you get to that next step, like all the stuff we're thinking and talking about changes. But I think for just like,
Yeah.
just like middle of the road acting, just I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like it is in tiers. So I don't know. And that's the thing. Do I want to get there?
Well, and this is the thing that has changed so dramatically for me living in Savannah in every aspect of my life. I just don't think of tiers anymore. And if I move to New York or go back to a big city at some point, that is going to be a rough transition because I'm very much a sponge of my environment. But I think this very capitalist, industrialist grip on acting and the film industry, like, just destroys so much and gets us so stuck in this. Like, well, okay, I'm in this tier now, so I should pick up these productions, but is it worth my time? And like, you're on this linear path towards something rather than this like more like maybe Eastern philosophy kind of approach to each project where it's like this fed me, I fed it, we fed the community. So that is going to be hard to part with. And I think people who are in a higher tier, if you will, so how do we define that? They're more well known, they pick up more projects and they're paid for them and paid better. So I think they probably, and there's a whole realm of those people who, because I worked at, thanks to my degree, I worked at a talent agency as my first job. And there are a ton of people who now I'll see in shows, but 10 years ago, they were like just getting something. They were like
Yep.
just into a known agency and they were trying to send them out on all this stuff. And like, it took them that long to just get some roles where they're like, oh, I love that girl. So
Yeah.
those people are working away the whole time, like just endlessly trying to pick up more stuff. So they have their own set of problems of trying to like live into what they put their foot into.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's just hard because I think being money motivated by it, I think I am best being money motivated by writing and love oriented in acting. But I still want to be on like
See,
a stage in New York.
I've always told myself if I could just get by or just like, someone just, whatever the base salary is to live for a year, I would just be so involved in everything. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
Community, that, as long as I just had some steady income. But now I'm struggling to figure out what is steady. And then, so it's just, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, I think it ebbs and flows too of where you're at in life, age, all these other factors, relationships, all that. But it's
Mhm.
just like this ever evolving process, which actually,
Yeah.
so do you think my reasons for acting now are different than that of the past?
Yes, I think, but only very slightly.
Oh,
So I think that well, maybe the reason that you do act now is I think it comes more from the love of it, the confidence in yourself, the knowledge that you're adding value to a production, that people can enjoy you, in a way that like you're offering something. Whereas maybe in the past, like you loved it because you loved being in, like you loved it in a pure way and like a very like being in the production and being part of it and like getting to be seen and like the excitement of it maybe
hmm,
more. Whereas now you're like, oh, I can really add value and it'll be a mutually satisfying experience for me to do this thing. So, but yeah, your attitude about it probably has gotten both a little bit more professional and a little bit more relaxed, that you're like more willing to do like a day at a time kind of an approach rather than like, whoa, I'll never be able to make it.
see, I would definitely say those are true, and I'd say a little more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just weird because in this, like, maybe it is. I just don't use the word relax. I'd say like don't care. But this one that I'm in, I mean, I talk about hookers and I sing about how basically I'm a prostitute. I'm wearing
I was a
this.
prostitute in my last thing.
It's the roles typecasting. But I'm in like this like I don't know, like this dress and fishnets, and I'm like, I don't know if I would have done that
Yes. Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, yeah, like they asked, like, are you okay with that? I'm like, I don't care. And then they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, so it's like, I feel like more freedom as I'm
Mhm.
older, but I don't know if that is um, it's weird because I say I feel more freedom, but I'm still just like up here, just still like,
Yeah.
I'm still so searching and like, am I doing the right thing? Is this and this? But I do just feel like more freedom of just like, this is what it is, and this is the role, and I'm just
Yeah.
gonna like go for it. But also, is that because I'm not getting paid?
Well, this is the
I
thing.
don't feel as much pressure. Like, do I
I
have to
love
perform?
it so much more now. It's so much more a part of who I am and an essential part of my life now than it ever was when I was like trying to do my own short film and produce stuff and like be in other people's stuff. When I was trying to do it in LA, it was kind of miserable.
Yeah.
And like I would like do a good job at some of the roles, but I was very director and externally dependent. And I also was like extremely dependent on acting classes because I was like, well, they've got to make sure like every performance has to be. Whereas, like in this last thing I was in, I feel like I did well. I got good feedback from the audience. And I was like, oh, I can keep doing this. But the reason that I felt like I flourished, like actually singing solos for the first time, was because the director just encouraged me. The environment was not high stakes at all. The audience ended up being like very intimate. And she was just like, I'm so glad you're in this. And we had a bunch of fun together. And like something in me just appeared because I put pressure on myself in every performance to do the absolute possible best I can. Like I will push myself to my max capacity in practicing, lose my voiceover. But I only do it because I want to feel the most satisfied possible. And it's not at all for like how I'm perceived.
So then, out of curiosity, all that you just said, does it make a difference if you got $5,000 for that instead of nothing for that?
I think so. I think it would ruin that production for me.
Okay.
I'm not against like, okay, let's say I was in a Broadway show. It would be like, I'm not wealthy enough to do that for free because that goes into that thing where like this didn't take up so much of my time
Mhm.
that I couldn't work. But if I was to do something like that, also like, what the hell? Like, of course I should get paid. But I think like at that level, it would be such an amount or like such a thing that it would sort of feel like when I got to be in an Andrea Bocelli concert with my chorus,
I was
and
waiting
it
till
was
you brought that up. That's pretty good. I was waiting for that drop.
no, but that was amazing because I'll never have that moment again because even if I'm on a stage like that, I'll never feel like what I was describing, like maybe your early days of just that like, oh my god, Christmas, experience of it. But I do feel like I would not be opposed to being in something like that and getting paid well for it. And like, this is part of the production, this is part of our work. Because you're already at such a high level. But getting paid a little bit for a meh thing really starts taking the joy out of it.
Yeah.
Because, okay, maybe you want to do tens of thousands of dollars worth of a performance, fine. But if you're getting like $1,000 for a lot of work or $100, then it's like, well, you start wanting to live into the amount.
Yes.
And then your performance is only going to be as good as the amount.
Yeah. There's like a fine line, and I don't know what that is. And I don't think I'll ever have that problem of trying to figure out what it is. But I mean, you could do it on a
But you
small
do.
scale
I
too.
mean,
Yeah,
still.
it is. And it's what is the fine line of being an actor, having a outside career, and then pursuing your passions.
Yeah. And I think when people are really, really famous, what I'll hear is like, then they're just like, do I do a commercial? Do I do, who was it, Amy Poehler or something? Is like, I would never do, oh, no, no, no. Tina Fey is like, I would never do a sunglasses line. But like, people pick up other things or they have a podcast or are they doing a movie that's like big budget but that they hate or like so they're still, yeah, the financial burden of acting still I feel like it's still the same for people at a high level, I would think. But yeah, I just have really come to this place where I'm like, oh, capitalism kills everything.
Yeah, that's fair. So with that being said, I mean, obviously this podcast is passion project, and um, how long do you podcast? How long does this podcast last? But what I'm asking is, I had this question down. Do I see myself stopping acting, or am I always being involved? At what point, whether it's financial success, retirement, do you start purely doing it for the love of it, or do I start purely doing it
Yeah,
for the love
because
of
we
it?
got it. Because for me, I'm only at the love of it right now. Um, I think for you, it'll be much later in your life if you're continuing with this. Like, I feel like it'll be 20, 30 years down the line that you'll be like, all right, I'm not hot anymore. They don't have to pay me. Like, I feel like you'll eventually be like, or I think you might pick up something here or there along the way, like that you're like, oh, that'll be really fun. It's not too much of my time. It'll be really nice. Like I would enjoy that. And you don't need to be paid for it. But I feel like if it's like a full-on production kind of thing and you're going to put a lot of time into it, no, because you also have like the youthful burden of having to like build your wealth.
Yeah.
So like and providing for yourself and whatever, whereas like when you're older, a lot of the people who are retired that are on these smaller productions.
But I mean, there are roles for 75. I mean, they're always looking
No,
for grandma
absolutely.
and grandpa,
No,
and
no, my goal is to be like a crone, a famous
yeah.
crone. I mean, because that's no. Um, but well, that's the other thing. Okay, I want to ask a question about age. So, do you think that I have anxiety about my age and embarrassment that I would like be continuing to perform any like again, I don't mind about the money as long as I have enough money otherwise, but I do, or that I'm getting paid appropriately for what it is. But I do like the idea of being on bigger stages, of being in that huge production with all that amazing magic. Like
Mhm.
I do love a nice thing and a nice audience. Like, so anyway, do you think that I have anxiety about at this point in my life, like continuing to pursue performance when I'm 4 years from 40?
Yeah, I would say you probably struggle with it. Of just at what age does, I wouldn't say reality set in, but like, oof, I don't know. That's this. What's this podcast called? It's the hard question. Is it what is it?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so it's interesting that you took that take on it, the like, what point does reality set in? Because I think that is very much a mindset that you have. Do you
But
mean
that's
like at what?
me.
Do you mean at what point does ugliness set in, or do you mean at what point is it like, well, you've been trying this for a while, like
Like, I mean,
maybe,
my parents, I wouldn't say they weren't supportive, but it was never go act. It
yeah,
was like never like keep at it. It was like, okay,
yeah,
you're gonna go to college now. You're gonna, get a job. So at I'm what point does that kind of
happen,
happen
yeah,
on a personal level now, not as external factors
right.
telling you,
No,
as
truly.
Rebecca telling you.
Okay, so then there's two answers to this question. So for that, I'm already on the reverse side of that. It's like the kids argument. Like people are like, well, weren't you going to change your mind? You want your own kids? No, no, no. We've already had the baby fever. So I already did like the high level, like I could, not to be like, but I could be working in a studio if I had continued that path in development or whatever. A
Hmm.
lot of my friends who were even on a lower level than I was at the time are development execs or whatever. Like I had very high powered opportunities that I left because of my health and because they were not aligned with me. And then I ended up, I think the universe just made me more of an artist, if you will. So I've had the reverse where like I did get far enough along that I was able to make enough money off of writing that I could support myself. Now, inflation's a bitch. But like it is a thing where like I have options with like I figured out sort of day job stuff for the most part, so that like now performance truly is like I will just flourish where I flourish, and there will never be like I'll be that 80-year-old in the community performing.
That's
There will
fair.
never be a point. Like it's only that from now on, kind of, unless, you know, again, get back with me if I'm getting paid for some big shit. But
Yeah.
like, but the thing that I do have anxiety about and embarrassment about is like I feel like I'm gonna be ugly soon. Like
That's
I worry about the roles that are available for women. And let's say that I like suddenly was really known or was really out there. It's like, okay, well, she's 45. She's not going to be even in musical theater. She's not going to be like the young girl falling in love. So
but you just
there's this feeling
transition
of
to
right.
the
But you don't
mother
want
of
it to
the
be the
young girl
matron
falling
for
in
your whole
love.
life. Like, and I think one thing that I appreciate about the generation before me is they have really opened up, like that women through their 50s and even some films like beyond that are the love interest,
Yeah.
are the whatever. So that does help to know that like those stories aren't lost to you. But I think it would just be embarrassing if it was like, oh, Rebecca got famous at 50.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
I I think as long as like I still like liked I don't know, like right now I'm playing a high schooler and I'm like
Yeah.
I told them I was like, "Guys, like this is not for me." I was supposed to so this is actually really weird because I was supposed to play there's an old machine fortune teller wizard and I was supposed to play that, but then the other person dropped out and they had like an older gentleman, I think he was 70, who volunteered to play. So I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. First of all, you asked me to play the wizard, which fine, but now I'm transitioning back 40 years getting younger and now I'm okay to play a high schooler. Granted, I know it's just because they need it.
Dubbing
But
roles.
at first they labeled me as the old wizard in the thing. So I really am at this weird
Yeah, you can be
stage where
anything.
I could go 15 years this way, 15 years this way,
You probably got
and
about
it's
10 years of that.
yeah.
10,
So
15
I am.
years of
I'm like,
that.
and there's a lot of roles that I wish I did that I didn't do.
You're in the prime of the male career, and I'm late prime, still prime of the female career, but we're not in the prime of acting
Yeah.
success, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you're thinking of it in a career way, it really then anxiety's really stepping in. Especially as a female actor. But even for the love of it, like it will be so painful to no longer be cast as like someone that someone would love.
Yeah. And like there's some people have dream roles. Like, you know, like Roger and Rent, when I did it, like a bunch of people were in it. They were like, "Oh, this was my dream role. This is my dream role." Like
Yeah.
I've always been. And I was like, I honestly just I've seen the movie Rent 20 years ago, but I didn't know any of the songs, anything like that. And it was cool to learn as I was going, be like, oh, this is a really cool role. But like, I don't know if this happens 5 years down the road, I'd probably never play Roger again.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, you got to.
Yikes. So, but
All
then
right.
again, that's a whole, yeah, that's a
No,
whole,
what's the
no,
other
no,
thing?
it's a whole wormhole. It could be another hour discussion and
Okay,
we're
but
good.
you have to throw it out there and then just leave people on a cliffhanger and they'll be mad at you.
I was just gonna say, like, I just saw Adam Pascal, who played Roger in Rent 25 years ago. I mean, he played Shakespeare in Something Rotten. So, and then every other version of it is like a younger guy. So but that's on my side of it.
Mm-hmm.
On your side, I don't think it's the same case.
No, and thankfully, I do think that many things are changing, but it's going to be, you know, for someone Nicole Kidman's age, is Baby Girl is the storyline. It's not, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not Shakespeare in Love, you know. So, but, or I guess for her, it would have been Moulin Rouge. But yeah, okay. Then this is a final question of us
Okay.
judging other people. Do you feel like I'm just going to ask it direct of you and you can ask it
Okay.
direct of me. Do you feel like you can tell or that you judge actors that you know enough about their career, have seen them in multiple things when they're in the wrong thing, quote unquote? They're too old for their role. They're too young for their role. They've done some terrible film that's like way below them, or they like reached too hard for a role that was not a fit.
Yeah, I definitely can now. And after I've taken, because I was in Savannah because I was taking acting classes, and I mean, one of my teachers was just in the new Suits LA. Like I like saw him on there, like still just grinding, which is cool and inspiring. But now that I've been trained what to look for, you notice it a lot more, and I definitely judge them. But then, even after having this conversation, you think like, are they just? Is it for the paycheck? Are they just trying to put themselves in a different light? So I mean, I'm sure they're going through the same exact.
It's the same exact
same
thing.
exact thing. Just the difference is they do it in the public eye and
For more money.
for more money.
My answer.
We judge them so much more for it.
My answer is I judge them hard. I wonder if part of it is like an envy thing or like the normal human, or in a little bit of Schadenfreude, and you're just like, well, I'm doing fine if she tanked her career.
Acting is judging, is what I've learned. Acting is judging.
But I will say this. I saw somewhere. So, okay, how hard do I judge though? I judge a little cringe if a woman is in a situation that I find embarrassing. Like, yeah, like she's just not quite, they're trying to cast her as like 10, 15 years younger than she is. They should have just leaned into how old she is.
Yeah.
Or they're like something where I don't judge too much like other people do. If you do like a big budget thing, like I'm not like, oh, you should, but if you are bad at it, I'll judge you. So, but oh, and then when people are in commercials, I'm like, times are tight, huh?
See, I
But
really want to get into commercials.
well, but like an award-winning person who's like,
they just need the paycheck.
they haven't had a film in a
Yeah,
minute.
they just need the paycheck.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I heard something, and I'll end on this, which is that when you are judging people like who are wealthy or better than you at something or more successful, you are essentially closing off your aspiration to be that.
Your opportunity.
Yeah, because you're mentally associating it with a negative, and somewhere internally you will have resistance to being unliked by all the other people who might judge. So when you start dropping that, when you start being like, people who are really wealthy are cool. They did a good job. Good for them. They're not like sucking the life out of the rest of us, or they're not like frivolous for going on a vacation they can afford. Like just changing the narrative then allows all of you to be on board to manifest that rather than this like and the fear. I do so many things or don't do so many things out of the fear of being liked less. Because I've figured out how to be liked enough in my life that I really enjoy it. And putting myself in different situations where that would be at risk is hard for me.
I will say my attitude, perspective, all has changed more towards that narrative of being open, and I've gotten the most opportunity I've gotten in the year. Paid, unpaid, but a healthy balance. But yeah, I really just think it is just a mindset and a perspective, and then everything's just on the up and up.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you
So much.
This is great. This is my first podcast.
Oh, and
maybe it'll kick off my podcasting career.
You're great at interviews. I'm gonna be like the slightly overaged host who's like fawning over the guest. Like she's touched his arm like 3 times now.
I wasn't counting.
Okay. So also I want to point out our ironic background. These are not ironic. In my parents' home, they do suit their vibe. Like it's cute. Yeah. But anyway, we thought they were I thought they were cool for a little
curtains
theme. Anyway. All right. See you next time.